Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Jason Freeman, and I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. Now, ahead of watching and reviewing the film Luther, The Fallen Son, I'm going to watch and review all 5 seasons of the show. I'm going to tell you what I liked about each season. I'm going to tell you what I didn't like about each season. Then I'm going to tell you what I think you should see this season or just skip it. Now, at any point, feel free to click the notification bell or subscribe to my channel to get more content. So, without further ado, let's begin. Now, season 2 of Luther starts right where season 1 leaves off. We see the immediate aftermath of the actions of each character in the season finale of Luther season 1. We see the good things, we see the bad things, and it kind of just goes and starts right where with those consequences. Now, there is at least one main character from season 1 who is not in season 2. And so that we hear what happened to that person. We hear kind of vaguely what happened to that person. But for the most part, we see all the different kind of characters from the season finale of season 1, kind of where they land at the end, land in the beginning of season 2. All right. So what do I like about season 2 of the show Luther? Well, the first thing that I really like, and this was something that was really, I guess it was present somewhat in season 1, but much more so in season 2, was the suspense. Now, throughout season 2, it feels like one of those old school, like, slasher films. So think Halloween with Michael Myers and kind of him stalking his sister. Think Friday the 13th with Jason. Think, I'll even go Scream. The idea that you have these kind of killers lurking in the darkness and you don't know where they're coming from. That is present throughout season 2, and I love it. I felt tense and my muscles clenched. I'm sitting here watching it, and I felt genuine like dread for what's gonna happen. And it's not necessarily people in like masks, even though there is at least one killer in a mask. But it's just more so you know there's these killers out there, and this is a world populated with monsters and killers. Not literal monsters, but people who act in monstrous ways. And so you know that they can be around any bend and anyone is in danger. That's the other thing I liked about this season, which is related. So anyone is in danger. Obviously, we know Luther isn't going to be killed. That spoiler alert. There are 5 seasons. But the point is, anybody else around can, and that's something we saw in season 1. And that's definitely something where the presence of the everyone's in danger is very much a piece of season 2. Now, related to that is another thing I like about this season is the use of music. The music is an ever-present, almost like a creature in the show. Think Jaws. When you hear that music, you know that sharks have come out of somewhere. You know that shark is lurking somewhere. Well, the same thing with this. Like, the music kind of gets you, kind of sets the tone. You hear it, you know something's about to happen, and you know that it gets you prepared, or sometimes kind of tricks you into thinking that something's about to happen. But the music is very much kind of sets the tone and very much gets you in that mood of, oh my God, something's about to happen, which again is one of the high points of the season, in that it's very suspenseful and it gets you on the edge of your seat. A third thing I liked about this season, and this is a holdover from season 1, so it's the same thing, is the writing. The writing in this show is just really, really good. And I say this as someone who spent years, and I'll admit, I'm a fan of the Law and Order shows. I don't watch them very much anymore, but I mean, there was a time when anytime I'm at home, and one of those Law and Order shows pops up, I'm going to watch it. So I'm a fan of the show, of the Law and Order shows. But this is kind of like one of those shows, but at a much higher level. So again, before I use the example of Law and Order Criminal Intent, and it's very much kind of has that, that really smart, really kind of on top of it but slightly weird investigator. And I would say that Luther is more tortured than weird, where Goran was just straight weird and torture. But yeah, definitely Luther has that kind of torture, that something that thing that goes on inside of him that you don't totally see. And I suspect, and this is just, I haven't seen any of the other seasons, and obviously I haven't seen the movie; it hasn't come out. I think there's probably something going on in his background. He talks about his dad, and in the military at various points. I don't think that's a spoiler. I mean, it's just, but the point is, there's something going on with Luther that we don't see, something that's motivating him. And a lot of it is, the thing with Luther is he wants to do the right thing in a world in which the right thing oftentimes goes awry. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. And so there's definitely that, but the writing really kind of captures his torture, and you see that in each of the 4 episodes of this season, and it very much kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat with the suspense. And there's a lot of twists. There's a lot of things that you don't predict. And I will say that there's one character in particular, which I'm not going to spoil, but this particular character is the voice of reason. And it's really interesting to kind of see that character's journey throughout the season. And obviously you get annoyed. Oh my God, why are you saying this? When we think about it, this character is right. I mean, obviously in this world, you have to do certain things to get things done because of the darkness. But if we were in this world and we had a career that, we're part of this police force, we got in the police force for the right reason, this character is right. And obviously we see where when he does these things, it leads to even more problems. And so had he just gone the path of this particular person, he wouldn't be in as much trouble, though maybe he wouldn't be as effective. But that's kind of where the writing sets up all these different little pieces that keeps you kind of caught up and kind of, at the edge of your seat, paying attention to everything that's going on in the series. And another thing along the lines with the writing is, one of the big things with good screenwriting is the idea of show, don't tell. You don't sit there and have a whole soliloquy about, Luther is really smart. You show it, and they show it throughout the series. Luther, I mean, obviously he's a police officer, and he is he's a very good police officer, but he is really very much a savant. He could be doing anything at this point. Like, he could be a great writer, he could be a scientist, a doctor. His brain is on a different level, and he's a genius level person. He just happens to point his genius towards solving these crimes. And so we see that just throughout, like the references he makes, the plans he comes up with, that he executes. He's just a genius level person. And I'm not going to say this person's name because it'll give away something from season 1, but the antagonist, and people who know the show, have seen the show, know what I mean by the antagonist. The antagonist that goes from season 1 to season 2. That's kind of a kind of love-hate relationship, the antagonist. And so the antagonist is a genius, and it's stated at the very beginning that this person is a genius, wherever they come in the series. I'm not going to say where. But the antagonist sees the genius in Luther, and you kind of see that back and forth. The other thing I liked about this season, and this is more just a structural thing, is that there's only 4 episodes, and it's very bingeable. So I ended up watching all 4 episodes back to back, basically yesterday. So I watched all of them and enjoyed them. I was sitting here in my office. I was also working. I was preparing my class. Right now I'm preparing my classes for next week, so I'm start teaching next week. But I was sitting in my office. I did that first. I'm an early morning person. It's pretty early now. It is like 6 something in the morning now, just because I'm a morning person. But the point is, I was getting my classes prepared after I watched the four episodes. Again, it's 4 hours. It's bingeable, very bingeable. And yeah, it's something, I think that's a good thing about kind of modern television. Before, I had to watch 22 episodes, which I would not be. I would not be reviewing a whole season, watching 22 episodes in a row. Especially not of this. It's very dark, and so I couldn't sit and watch 22 episodes in a row of this show before I could do. And it felt like just a really good movie. which is again what I like about modern television now. And so yeah, so that's one thing I liked about the series is that it's very bingeable. So if you have not seen the series, completely not counting the movie, there's 20 episodes, which is one of the things that inspired me to say, well, I can do this. I can watch all 20 episodes between now and when the movie comes out. And so yeah, so it's very bingeable, and that's one thing I do like about the season. It was six episodes in season one, is 4 episodes in season two, and I'm really glad that it's just 4 very tight episodes that are very bingeable. And the last thing I liked, and I'm kind of on the fence about this because I can see this as being a negative of the show too, are the killers. And so the reason I say that is that the killers are interesting, but none of them are on the level, in my opinion, of the antagonist. The antagonist is kind of the main anti-hero, villain, whatever you want to say about it. But the point is that, and I know what antagonist means. So even though I still consider the antagonist a villain, the antagonist, there is an anti-hero element in that the antagonist does help Luther at various points. But ultimately, I think it is for the antagonist gain in some level. So I definitely think the antagonist is still a threat, and I think the antagonist is still dangerous. But my point about the killers is that they don't overwhelm the other characters. So it's kind of like they come in, they're menacing. I mean, again, especially that first one, which I'm not going to go into more detail. The first one is menacing. I really, and so, and the second one to an extent too, though probably not so as much. But the point is, I like the killers. I like the fact that they weren't overwhelming the story, and they weren't always 100% focus of everything that's going on. And so, yeah, so I think the killers were fine they worked for this season. Now, going forward, do I want some more killers on the same level as antagonists? 100%. And I think I'm going to get that. From what I know about the movie, I think I'm going to get that. And so, yeah, so I'm really excited about, I really like the killers in this season for as much as the role they played as, more so than who they actually were. The role they played, I think, really worked for this 4-episode season. So what didn't I like? Well, there wasn't much I didn't like about this season. I really love this series. This is one of my favorite shows that I've watched. And so one of the things I didn't particularly care for was the side story with the mob boss, and that's all I'm going to really say about description-wise because I don't want to give too much away. But there's what I would call a mob boss in this season, and that side story could have been done away with. I like the kind of mental chess between Luther and the killers, and so that's what I wanted more, and also with Luther and the antagonist. And so the side story with the mob boss and their son and all this other stuff, that, they could have done away with that. So it played itself out, and it did add suspense to the show, and it did really show off his genius. I'll stop it there, but it wasn't necessary. And so if they got rid of that, I think I would have been fine with the season. So that's something I didn't particularly care for. It didn't really add anything to the show, in my opinion. And so that's something I didn't particularly care for. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really care for it. And one thing that kind of annoyed me, and this was just more of an annoyance, and this is probably something that's not going to go away, is the civilians in this show act in a very NPC way. And you can look at what NPC stands for, whatever. But they're kind of just there. And some of their reactions is like they're seeing this person chase this criminal, and not one of them sticks a foot out or does anything to help that person. It's almost like they're just kind of oh, this person's chasing is a killer. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely something I've seen on video in America where someone sticks a foot out or helps out a little bit. But in this one, no, if you're on your own. And that's something that was really annoying. It's just they got it. And when killers do start, literally everybody scatters. And it's I don't know. I guess it could be more of the American thing where, the idea of the quote unquote good guy or good person with the gun thing. And we do have a lot more guns in this country. And so the point is, I don't know. I feel like someone or more people would intervene in some of those situations. And I think the idea is that you want to make the killers more menacing. So when they start, everyone scatters and everyone's terrified. I don't see that playing out as much in real life in the same way. And so they annoy me. And sometimes I don't really, don't care what happens to them because, again, you guys are doing nothing. Like nothing. You're just kind of letting this happen. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, so that's the civilians in this show, in the series in general, just annoy me. I feel like they could do more. Though with this story, I get it. Like you want the main people to do stuff to be the cops, and I get it, but they're annoying. And sometimes I'm like, whatever, just do it because they're not going to do anything to stand up to you anyway. The last thing that I would say that I didn't particularly like, and this is kind of again one of those on the fence thing, because if they had added it, maybe I wouldn't have liked that either. But the point is, in the first episode of season 2, they do start where season 1 leaves off, but they don't spend a lot of time there, in my opinion. So they deal with a little bit in episode 1, and then we're off to chasing the first killer. And I feel like with the significance of what happened at the end of season 1, that they would have spent a little bit more time dealing with the aftermath of what happened. And with relationships, with mourning, I won't say too much, but there's mourning. There should be some mourning going on, more so than what I think happened. I know there's a little bit of a time jump, but I felt like the time jump isn't big enough to that, the impact of what happened wouldn't have affected people in a much deeper way. And I felt like I would have spent the first half of season 1 dealing with the aftermath the first half of episode 1 of season 2 dealing with the aftermath of season 1, and then the second half of the episode dealing with the killer and that's kind of the thing that snaps them out of it. But they did it in their way, and again, I enjoyed the season, so I'm not complaining too much. That's just one thing that I didn't particularly like. I wish they would have spent a little bit more time dealing with the aftermath of the ending of season 1. So, should you see season 2 of Luther or just skip it? And I would say very much see this season. This is a really good follow-up to season 1. I can see why this show lasted, again, 5 seasons, or series, as they say in Britain. And so, because the thing is, it builds on what worked in season 1. It also adds, again, the suspense element. It really added to it. Putting more people in danger who are part of the main cast was something I really enjoyed and really liked about season 2. So I think it elevated the show even more. It was already a really good show at season 1, and season 2 really puts it on a whole different level. So yeah, see it. I haven't gotten to the season yet where I said skip it. That could happen. But right now, if you're going to watch the film Luther, The Fallen Son, got to write this down. Luther, The Fallen Son, which will be premiering on February 24th in select theaters and on Amazon on March 10th. You should watch these first 2 seasons first. And they're only 10 episodes together, which is half the series, honestly, which is crazy. I've watched half the series, and it's because only 20 episodes. And so, yeah. Watch those first two seasons at least. I'll let you know if you should watch the other ones, if they make a difference. But definitely watch those first 2 seasons. And the reason I can say watch those, the people who make the movies say you don't have to watch the shows to watch the movie. They'll catch you up or whatever. But based on kind of knowing the characters, I would say watch at least the first 2 seasons, and I'll see if the other 3 make a difference. But yeah, definitely watch the season 1 and season 2 ahead of watching the film Luther, The Fallen Son. Now, as always, if you found that review interesting and or informative, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please share this video. Also, if you have any questions about season 2 of Luther, please leave those questions in the comments section below. Thank you all for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day.